ජීවිතේ.
Very good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News here on TV1. You're joining me, Debbie Paldano. Now, before we head into your stories in more detail, let's first take a look at your headlines this evening.
Token system wrapped up in 24 hours. Lanka IOC to issue fuel for all customers. Will bus fares increase? Railways to increase fares. Sri Lanka to open up fuel import and retail sales market to foreign companies. Vijay Das's amendment that saves Gotabaya.
Now taking a look at one of your headline-making stories. On Sunday, the Sri Lankan government decided to introduce a token system for fuel purchases. However, 24 hours later, the government changed its decision to only issue fuel for essential services. CPC filling stations only issued fuel for essential services. However, Lanka IOC said it was issuing fuel under the token system to all customers.
A fuel tanker reached the Sipetco filling station in Matale for the first time in many days last evening. The people expressed their protest after a large number of police personnel visited the filling station to obtain fuel following the government decision on essential services. Fuel was also issued to those who obtained a token at the Sipetco filling station in Kandy. However, a tense situation arose when police officers and public officers attempted to obtain fuel. Thereafter, the Sri Lanka army personnel intervened to control the crowd. A similar situation was witnessed at the Putlam filling station. Tokens were issued to those who were in line at the Dambulla IOC yesterday and were given fuel this morning. Several foreign nationals attempted to obtain fuel from the filling station, however the locals opposed it. Locals alleged that one vehicle used by the foreign nationals had fuel and therefore fuel was not pumped to that vehicle. Although the government decided to only issue fuel for essential services, people continue to remain in queues for fuel.
Who will be issued fuel from today?
The government will be issuing fuel for essential services during the next 10 days. Sri Lanka Transport Board depots and depots operated by the armed forces will issue fuel for industries and agriculture. Lanka IOC will issue fuel as usual from their 80 filling stations in the island. The situation will return to normal from the 10th of July. The president spoke to the Russian president on Russian oil imports. The minister is also in United Arab Emirates for talks on petrol imports. India is also in a positive position. The Indian High Commissioner is also making great efforts to secure fuel shipments before the 10th of July. Our aim is to provide fuel for all essential services until the situation goes back to normal.
What are the essential services declared by the government? They are transport, health, airports, railways, ports, armed forces and the Sri Lanka police.
Parliamentarian Mahindananda Alutgamage is defining what essential services are to the people of this country. However, it is important to go back in history to identify the caliber of this person. State Minister Shashindra Rajapaksa and Mahindananda Alutgamage were two key officials responsible for the country's fertilizer crisis. It was the then Agriculture Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage who stood for the foolish decisions that were made by a few. Mahindananda Alutgamage made many failed promises to the people in the past. He said Sri Lanka will receive a fertilizer shipment from China after making a payment of $6.9 million. But that shipment never reached the country. It was Mahindananda Alutgamage who promised the people that farmers would be compensated for the loss in harvest. But no compensation has been paid so far. Sri Lanka's media sector has fulfilled its duty as the country's watchdog, exposing the corrupt deals of those in power. But the government has now declared media as a non-essential service. There are concerns whether this has been done to suppress the media which acts as the source of accurate information. Or this is perhaps due to the fear of the media, which exposes the wrongdoings of their henchmen. On multiple occasions, the current government has failed to disseminate clear and accurate information to the people. During those times, it was the media which took the effort to clarify matters to the public.
While the government defined its meaning of essential services, many vehicles were seen moving in and out of the CPC terminal in Kolonnawa, an eyebrow raiser for many. Sri Lanka's cabinet has given the green light to open up the fuel import and retail sales market to companies from oil-producing nations. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara tweeted that these companies will be selected on the ability to import fuel and operate without forex requirements from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and banks for the first few months of operations. He said that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation will be the service provider for logistics, stocking and distribution with a service fee charged from the companies. He added that selected outlets of the existing 1,190 CPETCO and new outlets will be made available for LIOC and new companies. He went on to note that the refinery will operate with the CPC. 90% of Sri Lanka's current petrol demand is met by the CPC and the remainder is met by Lanka IOC. According to the cabinet paper, the 90% market share of the CPC will be made available for another company. Convener of the Left Centre, Chamira Pereira, says the government must be removed for the wrong decisions, in fact, that have affected the people. They issued tokens and allowed people to line up, and 24 hours later suspended it. They reopened schools and 24 hours later they closed the schools. What is the purpose of the government that keeps changing its mind? What is the purpose of a government that cannot operate smoothly for 24 hours? This is a group of insane people. This is what we called the Rajapaksa Wickremesinghe fascist junta. Why do we need such a government? This country is dragged further into an abyss every second this government is in power. On multiple occasions, the Minister of Power and Energy had said that a petrol shipment is to arrive on the 23rd of this month. But there has been no update on what happened to this shipment.
On June 16th, Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said 2 suppliers have been chosen to supply petrol and diesel to Sri Lanka. He said letters of credit have been opened to make the purchases. The subcommittee appointed by the cabinet granted approval to enter into agreements with 2 suppliers to import petrol and diesel. We have sent them the letter of award confirming the order. We received their details by 2 p.m. People's Bank will open letters of credit. I discussed this with the People's Bank chairman and the Prime Minister. We have agreed to provide People's Bank with the required dollars and rupees. After the letters of credit are opened, we can tell when the petrol and diesel shipments will arrive. We will bring down the first consignment as a test. However, although letters of credit were opened, one supplier had placed a condition that Sri Lanka must name an international bank as a guarantor. At that time, trade unions revealed that no international bank had agreed to be named as a guarantor.
They said
that they paid $42.5 million for a petrol consignment that would arrive on the 23rd, and that letters of credit were opened through People's Bank. But the ship hasn't begun moving towards Sri Lanka, as we haven't been able to name an international bank as a guarantor.
The Minister of Power and Energy initially said the petrol consignment would arrive on June 23rd. However, on the morning of June 23rd, the minister tweeted that the shipment will be delayed by 2 days. On June 24th, the minister said the arrival of the fuel cargo will be delayed even further. The following day, on June 25th, the minister in a tweet said he regrets that the arrival of the fuel cargo would be delayed even further. Trade unions then revealed that a supplier was insisting that the government should name an international bank as a guarantor or make the full payment in cash. At that time, a senior official at the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation told Newsfirst that the full payment for the fuel cargo had been made. As the country anticipated the arrival of the shipment, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation distributed tokens to people who were in queues. However, there has been no update on the fuel cargo for which payments were made. Power and Energy Secretary Mapa Patirana told Newsfirst it is the regular process to pay for a cargo after it arrives. He said it is unfair to question him on whether payments have been made, and that is not a matter that concerns him.
Where is the petrol shipment? They awarded the fuel supply tender to a company that we have never heard of. The minister said the ship was near Switzerland and that it will reach the country on the 23rd. Then they said the ship is 15 nautical miles away from Sri Lanka and that it will arrive on time. A few days ago, he said the arrival of the fuel ship will be delayed. But where is the shipment? Yesterday, he said the shipment won't arrive at all. There is a racket at sea. If they get caught, they leave the entire shipment and escape. The government opened letters of credit worth $42.5 million as they tried to pocket commissions by importing fuel on the Champion Pula tanker while not following the tender process. The Laserhead company has said they need a cash payment and that opening letters of credit is not enough. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation paid $42.5 million to People's Bank. What happened to that money? In 2012, an Iranian crude oil shipment was hijacked at mid-sea. The ship was located using a satellite by the US Embassy. We lost $30 million. We paid $6.5 million for a ship carrying waste. We didn't receive fertilizer or unload a fuel cargo. This is the third corrupt deal.
The Champion Pula vessel, referred to by trade unions, is now in the seas of India. The ship is travelling from the Krishnapatnam port to the Kakinada port. Thousands of people are in queues across the country with tokens in hand to buy fuel. What happened to this shipment and the payments that were made? Can those irresponsible officers be allowed to misuse the hard-earned money of the people?
Meanwhile, a group of people consisting of three-wheel and taxi drivers arrived at the Prime Minister's office in Colombo today to inquire on the proposed relief packages to them.
I have been in line for 65 hours since last Friday, and suddenly yesterday evening they started giving coupons. It was like explaining on a nice recipe to a person who is in hunger. I don't have words to explain my frustration. These rulers must answer these. How can we provide food to our children for the next 10 days? Everyone is in hunger. I don't know how long they will bear it up.
The chairman of the Three-Wheel Drivers Association was allowed to meet a representative from the Prime Minister's office.
I was not allowed to go beyond their security lines. An additional secretary called Saman Bandar came for a discussion. I explained our grievances to them while standing. It seems like they know about these rules, but they act like they don't know anything about it.
Meanwhile, the proposal to increase bus fares by 30% starting from the 1st of July is scheduled to be handed over to the Ministry of Transport tomorrow. The decision to increase bus fares was reached after a meeting that took place in the Transport Ministry today. Groups representing bus services participated in this meeting.
Several bus services associations had different views in this regard. No final decision was made during this meeting. Once a heated situation arose during the meeting, the minister just left the room. I also came out of the meeting room because I don't want to be a part of any group that is against the national policy. The situation here cannot be resolved through any discussion.
Right.
The minimum fare, which was at 32 rupees, will be increased to 40 rupees. Some bus service associations came to this meeting and tried to include their own political personal agendas to this table. People like Vijay Ratna, who wanted their own political agendas to be implemented, is trying to betray our bus service, and by this we will lose our income. Our proposal was to backdate the annual increment of bus fares and to increase these bus fares from midnight tomorrow. We are actually running at a loss. We need to increase these bus fares at least by 30%.
This is the manner in which the general public used public transport services today. There are queues for fuel in Colombo and many parts of the country. Let's now cross over to Naveksha Gunasekara, who is now in Colombo to learn more about what's happening at filling stations at the moment.
I'm currently here at a filling station down Horton Place. As you can see, there is no petrol or diesel being sold at the moment. The people here stated that they've been here since morning actually to get tokens. However, 250 tokens were issued this morning, but there was no fuel that was released to the people who obtained their tokens as well. The people here also stated that they were told by the filling station management that fuel will arrive tonight. However, they are expecting fuel to arrive tonight and they are still remaining in the queues. As you can see, they say they've been here for quite a long time and they've not even had time to have their meals because they have to stay in these queues. This is the current situation in the country. We also visited several other filling stations in Colombo where tokens were issued, and even around 6:30 p.m. there were still fuel stations where tokens were still being issued. But however, the people seem to not be too happy with this token system, as they say that it's not being implemented properly, because once they receive this token, they say that there is no way that they will know whether the fuel had been delivered to that particular filling station or not. So people are alleging that the token system too is just another card out of the card pack that the government has used to simply get rid of these fuel queues. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara reporting to you from Horton Place here in Colombo.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara met with officials in Qatar to discuss the possibility of supplying fuel to the country.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara met with Saad Sherida Al-Kabi, the Minister of State for Energy Affairs and the President and CEO of Qatar Energy today. The minister said he had a productive discussion about the supply of petroleum products, LPG and LNG to Sri Lanka to overcome the energy crisis. He added that this is to be done with the assistance of Qatar Energy and the Qatar Development Fund. Qatar State Minister of Energy currently serves as the Chairman and the Chief Executive Officer of Qatar Energy. The Minister of Power and Energy met with the Deputy Director General of the Qatar Fund for Development and discussed a possible credit line facility for petroleum and gas supply. He was informed that funds have been allocated for medical supplies and the Qatar Fund for Development will consider the request for a credit facility and support the International Monetary Fund program.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa says a people's uprising would be launched against the government.
The oppressive government has brought the country to the brink of total destruction today. Today, those in power consider the president's position and ministerial positions as essential services. When a problem arises, ministers go overseas and find solutions to the problem. What is this joke? Is this the government service provided for the people? Can't they understand the frustration of the people? I urge the president and the prime minister to resign immediately. We will unite all parties and all communities and create a democratic people's uprising that will reduce the suffering of the people. We will unite everyone and launch the struggle of chasing away this government.
At the G7 summit today, President of the United States, Joe Biden, announced $20 million in additional assistance to strengthen food security in Sri Lanka. Building on other recent funding announcements from the United States, this newly posted assistance will target Sri Lankans most in need during the current economic crisis. The funding aims to support a school nutrition program that will feed over 800,000 Sri Lankan children and provide food vouchers for over 27,000 pregnant and lactating mothers over the next 15 months. The effort also plans to support approximately 30,000 farmers through the contribution of agricultural assistance and cash in order to increase food production in vulnerable Sri Lankan communities. The $20 million of humanitarian assistance announced today builds on nearly $12 million in recent US commitments in economic and humanitarian assistance, totaling $32 million in US support for the Sri Lankan people since the 16th of June 2022. Crossing over for a short commercial break, stay tuned for more of the very latest.
EVA Trusted Confidence now has a fresh new feel. Introducing EVA Heavy Flow Wings with an extended length of 280mm to provide extra protection on days you need it most. And for the first time in Sri Lanka, an antibacterial layer minimizing microbial growth, it controls odor and promotes freshness, while the extra length multiplies absorption. Available in both cotton feel wings and Drytex wings variants. EVA, leading with confidence.
Welcome back to the news. Journalist Tharindu Uduwaragedara, appeared at the Criminal Investigations Department today.
Journalist Tharindu Uduwaragedara was summoned to the Criminal Investigations Department today. He was questioned on the disparity between the headlines and contents of certain news reports. Journalists and civil activists held a protest near the CID office, opposing the decision to summon the journalist. Tharindu Uduwaragedara left the CID at 1 p.m. after providing a statement for more than 3.5 hours.
I was questioned based on a complaint made by the director of the Air Force Intelligence Unit on September 6, 2021. The complaint was filed 10 months ago. I assume this was regarding the case on Lasantha Wickramatunga's murder. I published a video based on a CID report that contained Gotabaya Rajapaksa's name. There are concerns on whether this is why they summoned me for an old complaint filed 10 months ago. I was not cross-questioned. This is an attempt to create fear. Why are they conducting investigations when there is a public struggle going on? This raises concerns on whether this is an attempt to create fear among the media.
Police set up barricades to prevent a group, including Samagi Vanitha Balawege national organizer Hirunika Premachandra, from entering NWJ Mudalege Mawatha, leading to the president's office.
People can walk through these streets. What sort of a joke is this? What are they trying to protect in that man? Why are they afraid? Police officers were sent here the moment I arrived. There is a bank down this road. They're not allowing me to go to the bank. What is the police doing? What are they trying to protect? This is a road that can be used by ordinary people. There are only 3 women here. The country hasn't had fuel stocks for 3 weeks. We don't know whether fuel stocks will reach the country on the 1st of July. Wake up at least and come before the people. Don't we have to sack this person who destroyed this country? How many more deaths should we see? On what order are they blocking the road? I am a woman. What can I do to him? Am I to go and squeeze his neck? You can record this if you want. Tell them that Hirunika has come here once again. The country is in shambles. Doesn't anyone understand that? Don't you have children or spouses? How do you find food? Why doesn't anyone understand this? I ask the people of this country to come here and chase this man away. If Gotabaya is afraid of women, I ask all women to come and take to the streets.
The group questioned the police on the grounds on which the road was closed.
අර බමුසරේ අන්නෝන පොලිසිය දෙන්නේ කරගෙන හිරුණේක වරන් යන්නක බැංකුවට. ගේම ඉවරයිනේ. ගෑනු ළමයට පොලිසිය බයයි. අපිට මෙතන සල්ලි මාරු කරගෙන යන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ අපුල.
One of the people at the scene contacted the police spokesperson and allowed him to speak to the officer.
Sir, මං සම්බන්ධයෙන් ගරු පොලිස්පතිතුමාගෙන් හරි මාධ්‍ය ප්‍රකාශකතුමාගෙන් හරි ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අහන්න උත්තරයක් දෙයි කියලා. හරි. මම එයාට දෙන්නම් සර්.
අහන්න තමයි සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සුන්ට හෙලෝ.
ඒ මහත්තයාත් ඒ කතාව කට් කළා.
Hirunika Premachandra then left the area.
Sri Lanka's Justice Minister today responded to questions on whether the powers of the President will be reduced through the proposed constitutional amendment.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා නාමික වෙයිද?
නෑ මේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා නාමික කිරීමක් 19 වෙනි ආණ්ඩුව.
The president wasn't made a nominal executive through the 19th amendment. We won't do that. If we do that, the country will become a failed state. The constitution is based on an executive elected by the people. We can't go against that. If we are to make the president a nominal executive, we must follow the Westminster system. We need a new constitution for that. Allow us to pass the proposed constitutional amendment. Once the amendment is passed, allow us to bring in a new constitution.
අපිට අලුත් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් හදන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න.
The addresses of all members of parliament currently representing the parliament have been removed from the official website of the Parliament of Sri Lanka. After the inquiry was made by Newsfirst, a spokesperson for parliament stated that these steps were taken to protect the members of parliament in view of the current situation in the country and that they were sorry, I beg your pardon. And with that, we go in for a small commercial break. Stay tuned.
මොකද මහත්තයා මේ?
නෑ මේ ගෙදර සිංක් එකේ
අයි මහත්තයා ස්ලෝන් නෙවෙයිද දැම්මේ?
හදිසියට බාලා පයිප් එකක් දැම්මේ. නැද්ද මුදලාලි ඊයේ පෙරේදා කඩේ රිපෙයාර් කරන්න ගෙනාපු ගම් චුට්ටක්.
මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට හොඳම විසඳුම ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටක්. හැබැයි ඉක්මනින් දාගන්න ස්ලෝන් පයිප් එකක්.
ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැම ගෙදරකම සිටිය යුතු ජලනල කාර්මිකයා දැන් රඟම ග්‍රොසරියෙන් මිලදී ගන්න.
Biz Fast.
Central Bank of Sri Lanka decided to liquidate 5 failed financial companies in accordance with the application legal provisions. This includes Central Investments and Finance Limited, ETI Finance Limited, TKS Finance Limited, the Finance Company PLC, the Standard Credit Finance Limited. Meanwhile, a panel discussion organized by the Center for Banking Studies focusing on confronting the current foreign exchange crisis in Sri Lanka was held today virtually.
The keynote speech of the discussion was delivered by the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Philippines.
What is important at this point is to address Sri Lanka's very urgent liquidity needs. For this to happen, the IMF support is crucial. Use the proceeds of foreign loans and any form of swap facilities from other central banks to support only essential imports like fuel and food, as well as settle maturing obligations. Restructuring is critical because time is not on the side of Sri Lanka. Tax and trade policy should be considered within the context of a revenue-based fiscal consolidation, while carefully managing the level and quality of borrowings. Sri Lanka may need to create fiscal space. Sri Lanka needs to allow the exchange rate to be more flexible, to allow it as an automatic stabilizer.
And on to your sports news, the first test of the 2-match series contesting for the Vaughan Muralidharan Trophy will be played tomorrow in Galle.
Sri Lanka cricket will hold a commemoration ceremony to pay tribute to late Shane Warne just before the commencement of the first test of the 2-match series contested for Vaughan Muralidharan Trophy. The first match in the longer format of cricket will commence at 10 AM at the Galle International Cricket Stadium. Sri Lanka and Australia have played 31 test matches against each other, with Australia recording 19 wins and Sri Lanka with 4, while 8 matches ended in a draw.
And with that, we wrap up primetime news here on TV1. For more news, log on to our award-winning website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm David Paldan. Take care.